Guys, welcome back to the Hawk Zone. We are continuing our where we left off of our 25 most intriguing Seahawks for 2024. We gave you guys four last time, so we're just gonna keep going down the list here. We are at number 21, and we're gonna give you guys four more Hawks that we find that are most intriguing so we're excited to kick that off. But guys, before we get to all that stuff, um, again, we are going to kick off our a live Q&A once we get to that 500 mark. And again, we appreciate all the people that have been coming in and subscribing, listening, and watching the channel. And you know what? If you like what you are watching, you haven't subbed yet, just go down and hit that subscribe button. It helps the channel like immensely. It helps us keep bringing the content to you guys. And like we said, man, we appreciate all the support that we've been getting and continue to get. And we appreciate all the love we've been getting, all the feedback from everybody in the comments, and just in liking and sharing the video as well helps us a lot. So, Bryce, we this is a cool episode, man, because there's a few guys on this list that when I was looking over the notes during the week and we were putting our list together. Excited to kind of hit on a couple of these guys because there's a couple of guys that we're going to touch on. Actually, all four guys are, obviously. It's just the way the list is. But I like this one. So this list, man, this four, it's you guys are going to like this four. So on the other side, we're coming back with four more Hawks.
Well, I'm the best corner in the game.
This run. What a run. Get off me.
DK.
Yes, sir.
Hey, it's John Schneider with Seattle Seahawks.
And Washington's got a lead. Leon Wilson to catch.
Jackson, Smith, and Jigba. The Seahawks are going to host the NFC Championship.
Every year, the NFL does.
Is it going to be
You've
another
got to
9
look for
and 8?
players
Mike
who've
McDonald's
got a bit of
perfect
something.
fit for Seattle.
They have to fix the
Part of
offensive
the
line.
success and part of
Ambition of being the LOB
Want to hear that's trading DK Metcalf.
Play him aggressive.
This is the Hawk Zone Rundown with Ryan and Bryce.
Guys, welcome back to the Hawk Zone. We are going to get right into it right now with the list. We are at number 21, newly signed linebacker Jerome Baker coming over from the Miami Dolphins. Bryce, you got him at number 21. What intrigues you about Baker here?
So honestly, what intrigues me about Baker, we lost Jordan Brooks, we lost Bobby Wagner in free agency, and some of that was, I think, coaching staff deciding they wanted to go in a different direction as well as management. But I kind of look at this whole situation with our linebacking core, and it's kind of an interesting one. Baker intrigues me because he's really good in pass coverage. So that was one thing he did really well in Miami. He's really able to run with tight ends down the seam and be good in coverage. He's instinctive. The way it sounds, they plan on using him as more of the Mike this year compared to Dotson, who we talked about on the last episode. So with Baker, it's going to be interesting. He's got to get healthy. So that's something we've obviously, heard about through camp and everything, that his health's kind of been an issue. He hasn't been able to get out on the field yet. So again, this is like an audition year for him if it works or it doesn't work. But yeah, the linebackers we have now in Baker and Dotson are so different than what we're used to with Bobby and Jordan. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how they utilize Jerome Baker. Do they play to his strengths in some aspects? And the different things that they're able to do with him and lining him up in coverage and having him cover guys is stuff I don't think they've been able to do in the past with some of the backers they've had. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he kind of finds his role in Mike McDonald's defense and how this season goes for him and potential of getting an extension here in Seattle.
Yeah, we talked about the two guys now that, Tyrell Dotson's the other guy that, quote unquote, tryout years for these guys. And then who gets the extension? Maybe they both get an extension if they both ball out. But it's interesting because you kind of got these guys on the cheaper end of things. And like you said, he is a good cover guy. And how the big thing is, like you said, how are these guys going to fit into the Mike McDonald scheme? And at the end of the day, it's going to be like, who does Mike kind of want to carry, move forward with, with this team? So, real quick before we move on here, does that concern you that he hasn't, the injury, and that yes, he's in the building, but he hasn't participated, especially being new to the team and the McDonald's system?
Well, it doesn't, because, and I think this is something, listeners and fans will have to understand is Mike McDonald kind of put a interesting spin on what he called these mini camps in this OTA period. It's really passing camp. Like, guys can't play the ball really aggressively. They can't do a lot of things. There's no contact and certain things like that. So yes, I know everyone wants to see guys getting out there, getting reps in Mike McDonald's new defense and what they're going to do. If this lingers into training camp and he misses the first preseason game and then the second preseason game, then I think there's a big concern level goes up with this with Baker, because now you're missing padded practice time where you're going to be actually doing run fits properly and doing those kind of things. Like, a lot of what they can do right now is, if you're in your playbook and you're there and you're in the meetings, you're going to be up to speed enough. Yes, your reaction, but Baker's also played a lot in the league, so I expect that to pick up as soon as he understands what he's doing really quickly, that his game speed will get going. But again, like I said, if he's now injured into week 1, week 2 of the training camp and missing some of the preseason games, then I think there's a potential question on, okay, how long do we keep going down this road with him? Is he even going to be able to play? And I think that's where you saw the move, and I'm just going to tie this into a different thing, but this is why I think you saw the move with Draymond Jones's contract to free up some money. I know it doesn't think people think that they maybe do something immediately. I think it's more of a hedge on, hey, if we have to make a trade or do something down the line because one of our linebackers can't go, who do we have that we can now get under that cap number of the $8 million they've so freed up?
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's going to be interesting to see. I'm excited for him. And yeah, we'll see when he gets on the field and starts participating, man. Let's move on to the next guy on the list. You got a rookie here. We drafted him. He was our second pick, number 81 on that offensive line, Christian Haynes. Obviously, we need help in the interior. That was a big thing, big concern with a lot of fans. And the team in general, man, just protecting Geno, giving him some time in the middle there. What's intriguing about Christian Haynes?
Well, obviously, he's going in to compete with Bradford and McClendon Curtis here. In OTAs, he's kind of been taking the 2 and 3 team reps when the 3 of them are all out on the field together. But what's interesting about it is, Haynes was highly regarded in this draft class as one of the top pure guards in it. But it kind of is it seems like it's a little bit of a step away from what they've usually drafted at that position. Usually we've drafted, or brought in big mauling guards. Christian Haynes is a big dude, don't get me wrong, but he's a little bit more athletic. He can pass block and run block. He's not a expert in one or the other, really, in a lot of ways. He can kind of do both. And, again, it's fortifying, like you said, that interior of that offensive line. Olu, is potentially going to be the starting center. So he's a guy that we drafted last year. Now we brought in Christian Haynes. You've got the 2 young tackles in Cross and Lucas, if Lucas can stay healthy. So really, you're starting to build a young nucleus that can grow together. So for me, I don't know if Haynes starts right out the gate. Like, I know a lot of people hope that's the case because they see all his upside, which is awesome. But I could see a situation where maybe Haynes is in a rotational play with Curtis or Bradford to start the year until maybe he fully grasps what Scott Huff and Ryan Grubb are doing with their blocking schemes. And then you see Haynes kind of flourish and take off at a midpoint in the season.
Yeah, no, he is an interesting guy. I think a lot of fans are going to have the expectations that, he's starting no matter what. Like you said, like, well, wait a second here, and that's what people have to remember with any line, especially the offensive line. It's not a magic, wave a magic wand, draft a guy in the first round, sign a couple free agents, and that line is just ready to go. I mean, first of all, you're talking about a rookie, lots of upside, but like you said, Scott Huff, the way he wants to do it, does he fit in? Is he picking everything up? Obviously, that's the thing. So people just got to realize, hey, you know what? Yeah, he might be starting, but he might not. He might be sharing reps at the beginning and all this kind of stuff. Because that line is it's not just an automatic plug and play. I think, you look at the other side of the ball with Byron Murphy. That's yeah. I mean, first of all, that guy's just got a ton of talent through the freaking roof. So that's a whole situation, different situation on its own. But yeah, that's the thing. Like, even myself, you're just like, yeah, you want to see Haynes in there starting and Murphy on the other side. But in reality, it's kind of a wait and see. And we're gonna have a lot more answers coming to camp. But yeah, he's obviously intriguing for a lot of reasons. And like we were saying, just the fact is that we've had so many issues in that interior. So we're finally thinking, hey, we picked up a guy. Obviously, we got our blue chipper in Byron, and then it's like very next pick, we go after a guy that we liked. A lot of people like Christian Haynes, and you're like, man, let's plug him in right now. So
the other thing, though, I'll say is another caveat with this that I think people have to also look at is if Olu doesn't hit his center, Christian Haynes, and this is the other intriguing fact, took a lot of snaps at Senior Bowl as a center.
Right.
And I could see a situation where if McClendon Curtis or Anthony Bradford is doing really well at right guard and Olu's struggling at center, did they move that and make that move? And maybe Christian Haynes becomes the answer at center for Seattle for the long-term future if Olu doesn't pan out. So everyone should kind of keep that in the back of their minds when they're watching the training camp reports and stuff. Who's taking snaps as the backup center? When Christian Haynes isn't playing guard, what else is he doing on that line? Because he does have a bit of versatility that way.
Yeah, that's a good point. And let's hope Olu works out because, like you said, we want to find a mainstay at that center position. We haven't had. I mean, it's just it's a new center every year, So let's hope that isn't what happens. But like you said, if he does fall off, for fans to keep your eye on that because he does have some experience there. Moving on, man. Number 19 on the list. This guy, obviously a killer rookie year. Just out of the gate, 3rd round pick for us. Just, it was like the next guy we're going to talk about. I don't give it away, but you know what I mean. We just feel like we're shoring up this O-line a little bit on this on these tackles. Abe Lucas, number 19. Since then, has had his fair share of injuries and some injuries that scare you, injuries that, have, tag with, career threatening, type of injury stuff. What intrigues you about this guy? Obviously, we know what his body of work can be when he's on the field and healthy, but what intrigues you the most about Abe?
I honestly think the thing for me that's most intriguing about Abe Lucas is he going to be healthy? Because he needs, like, the way that the draft rolled, and this tells me I think that Seattle, their medical staff, John Schneider, Mike McDonald, Scott Huff, Ryan Grubb, all think Abe Lucas is going to be healthy because they didn't take a tackle in this draft. Yes, they took Lamea late, but it wasn't a situation where you look at Lamea and go, yeah, he can step in for Abe Lucas this year and be a starter and be contributing. They went out and got George Fant and brought him back as a hedge, which I love that move because it really does bring you some security behind it. But the O-line is better with Abe Lucas. You look at the Dallas Cowboy game last year when Abe came back, the offense lit it up. There was protection now for Geno. And in my personal opinion, Abe Lucas, his rookie year, had a better year than Charles Cross. He's had every year I feel Abe Lucas is a more impactful tackle to us than Charles Cross. You think Charles Cross did come back, played most of the year after his injury in week 1. The O-line didn't really get much better. And then Abe Lucas comes back, and all of a sudden we're lighting up the Dallas Cowboys, and Micah Parsons is not a factor until Shane Waldron calls that dumb play where he doesn't ask him to be blocked. So if Abe Lucas is healthy and good to go, and he doesn't have a chronic injury like Pete Carroll alluded to last year, and it sounds like it's not, he had some surgery in this offseason to repair it, and Abe Lucas is good to go, I think this is a really good sign for the Seattle O-line, especially with Scott Huff now as the O-line coach, to actually be able to get maybe the most out of Charles Cross and Abe Lucas and really send this team to new heights on the offensive side.
Man, you bring up that's just another thing I want to forget. You bring up that play in Dallas, the Michael Parsons. Was that DJ? That was a DJ Dallas thing, right? Was that?
That was, yeah.
Yeah, it's just another thing where, that was a head shaker. But like you said, I don't want to get off track, but like you said, healthy Abe against Dallas, offensively, we were lighting it up, time across the board. That's what he brings to the table. That's how valuable this kid is, and it's like, you just hope that's a guy we're just like, please stay healthy. And it's just one of those things where, yeah, I don't want to put it in, obviously completely different, but you look at the Jamal Adams situation, and you're just like, give me a healthy season with this guy. And obviously Jamal had other things that, a little more baggage there with other stuff that was happening. But it was just one of those things where you're like, get this guy healthy. Let's just have a healthy season. But you kind of start to lose hope about it. You started being like, man, is this just gonna be a trend with this guy? He just has the injury bug. So, even if Abe's healthy, you kind of it's hard like you're kind of holding your breath, and just every little move because you feel like he's vulnerable and because he's so young and he's already fallen into these injury situations. And that's not to say that it can't be a thing of the past, but it's just I just hope for Abe, obviously, and this team that that's a situation where that's in the past. We can have a healthy guy and be our tackle for years to come here.
Well, no, and I agree. It's going to come down to exactly that, and hopefully Cross and Lucas can be our two bookends for the next 10 years in Seattle, which would be great. And you solidify that, add Haynes into that mix, and Olu, and then eventually maybe LeMayo works out as a left guard after Tomlinson moves on. And in that situation, you finally get a solid five like we had when Mike Holmgren was here, with Walter Jones, Steve Hutchinson, Robbie Toback, Chris Gray, and Sean Locklear, and we had a solid O-line. The one thing I'll say, though, and this is something I've been thinking about for a while, you remember how everyone was talking about, Seattle was super high on Troy Fatanu coming into the draft, and they, were really looking at him, and he was sitting there at 16. And then we found out that his medicals and his knee didn't really clear Seattle's, staff. You got to wonder now, is that what scared them off Troy Fatanu? Is the Abe Lucas situation and his knee injury? Is we're not going to bank on having another guy when Abe Lucas came into that draft in his draft year, and there were concerns about his knee, and Seattle still went ahead and took him in the third round. Now you got to wonder if John Schneider's scared off of any tackle that has knee concerns at any point of either drafting them and letting them, go to the next team, because he doesn't want to risk having another guy that could potentially be out for, or only be a 3 or 4 year starter, and then that's it for his career.
Yeah, I mean, it has to go through his mind. And the Fatanu thing too. I mean, you're talking about even, a first round guy. So, that's going to scare you off even a little more. I guess, with Abe, you could take a flyer on that, being a third round. I mean, not that you want, but he's a talented guy. So, but yeah, so let's just hope things work out. He stays healthy. And like you said, bookends. Speaking of bookends, next guy on the list at 18 is that other guy, Charles Cross. He was our ninth. He was the 9th overall pick, our first round pick. He's one of those guys. We had Rob Staten on just after the draft, and he brought up a point, like, he's one of those guys that you just really don't talk about. He's just kind of like, there's Charles Cross, but 9th overall pick. And, here's a situation where, his contract's going to come up at a certain point, and you got to make decisions. What's intriguing to you, though, most right now about Cross?
The thing for me that's most interesting about Charles Cross is with now obviously Scott Huff and Ryan Grubb, who both have massive O-line back history. They obviously coached up a pretty good O-line there in Washington with Troy Fatanu, Kirkland, Nick Harris. Like, they've got a lot of guys that they've put into the NFL, and that have played well. And so I hope they're able to kind of maximize Charles Cross, because I'll be honest, and our listeners and that may disagree, but I find Charles Cross has kind of been a disappointment. For where we picked him at, I haven't seen top 9 NFL tackle play from Charles Cross. Yes, he has all the potential in the world. Coming out, he was highly regarded, the best pass protecting tackle, in the draft class. And so when we took him, I went, great, franchise left tackle. Like,
right,
maybe we're going to get somewhere close to, a little bit of Walter Jones play out of this guy. Not saying he's going to be Walter Jones, but someone that could be that, staple on that side. And his rookie year, okay, yeah, you went through your bumps and, you got better as the year went on. And him and Lucas both finished strong at the end of that year, I thought. Year 2, though, however, not as impressive. Like, gets injured, and we don't really see any sort of growth there from Charles Cross. Like, there were plays where he was just getting beat to the outside, and that was one of his big things is he was an agile tackle, and he's getting beat around the edge. And I know he had the toe injury, and maybe it wasn't fully healed. But I really think now in year 3, like, he has to take some sort of step. He has to start, becoming that dominant left tackle. And I think maybe having, instead of Damian Lewis playing left guard with him, maybe having Lincoln Tomlinson, who's, a veteran, is established, has played with, Trent Williams and some really good left tackles in his career, can really maybe help Charles Cross grow as a player. But I really think like this year is a huge year for Charles Cross, especially with that 5th-year option coming up in 2. Does Seattle take that 5th-year option? I think this year is going to be very indicative of whether or not Seattle will accept that 5th-year option and extend Charles Cross, or Seattle could potentially start looking for a replacement for him.
Yeah, no, those are all good points, man. And the point of Laken Tomlinson is a good one because, like you said, he was side by side with Damian Lewis there, so they were kind of growing together. With now you got this veteran who's been in the league for about 10 years now, and that can play a huge role. Plus the combination of Scott Huff, Ryan Grubb, his O-line background. So the pieces are there for him, and he's got the talent, like you said. So the pieces are there for him. That's definitely an automatic intriguing guy on this list because this is a guy, like you said, kind of been a disappointment, but the table's set for him now. If he's healthy, he has a new system. Scott Huff, Ryan Grubb, and a veteran beside him. So, the pieces are there for him to say, okay, now I can take that next step. And like you said, a crucial year for the Hawks to start thinking, okay, because if he has another sort of disappointing year with, these new pieces in place for him at his disposal, then you got to think, okay, how much do we want to invest in this guy moving forward? Because there's only so much money to go around. Yes, his position is vital, but you can't, you don't want to overpay, and the Hawks seem they usually don't, so it'll be interesting. But you know what? He's got this year to really prove it and really take that step. So I'm interested to really kind of watch how he progresses this season.
The last thing I'll say on both Cross and Lucas, for me, they are fringe blue chip players. If they can stay healthy, and both of them stay healthy, play and elevate their play this year under Scott Huff and Ryan Grubb in this new offense, they flip potentially to blue chip players that you need to have around. If it doesn't happen, I think these are two guys that you seriously, if you're John Schneider, you really have to look at, do we continue down this? Because you do not want to overpay like we've done in the past for certain types of players and have it come bite us in the ass because they never are able to reach the potential we thought they could.
Yeah, absolutely. And exactly. I think we're on the exact same page with that. So guys, there it is, man. There's 4. We made it down another 4 guys. We're down to 18. Now we hit 18. So on the next episode, when we come back and continue this 25 most intriguing, we're going to be 17 on down and give you 4 more Hawks. So look out for that one. But before that drops, just a heads up what we got coming up. We're going to have Dan Vians is going to be the next pod that you'll be seeing after this pod. And, we got something cool coming up with Dan, too. It's just the time of the year that we can kind of get creative. And a guy like Dan is awesome. We have him on the show a few times now. Dan's awesome to have on. We love chopping Hawks up with Dan. We're going to give you guys our all-time Seahawks team. And we're just going to go back and forth. It's like I'm bringing a team in. Bryce is bringing a team in. Dan's bringing a team in. And we're just going to go and give you guys an all-time Seahawks team. So that's going to be the next one. So look out for that, guys. Again, go down, support the channel, subscribe, like, hit the notification button so you're not going to miss any episodes like these ones we have coming up. And yeah, we're just ramping up, man. We're ramping up, bringing the content for you guys, and just excited, counting the days down to camp too, because man, once camp hits later in July, it's like you're like, man, season is just around the corner. Because just soon after that, you're getting into preseason, and then you're really getting into it. Because guys, I'm telling you, once preseason comes around, this is a preseason that I'm really looking forward to, because it's like a preseason that you haven't seen in a long time. So it's like it's your eyes are going to be glued on so many dudes.
No, 100%. There's going to be, especially when that training camp hits, you and me both talk, Ryan. We're going to be trying to give you guys as much content, as much, weekly pods as we can on what's going on, even maybe 2 a week, depending on, the ability of me and Ryan to get on together. And then, yeah, once the preseason hits, it's going to be fast. And we only have the one home preseason game this year versus Cleveland. Right. So, yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see those first, in my opinion, 4 weeks of the regular season for Seattle are going to be crucial to be determining on what direction we're going to see this team take. And the more I read, the more I look at what reporters are saying, the more I get a feeling I think there's a lot of people that are underestimating the Hawks this year and what they're capable of doing. And they seem to have forgot this is a talented team. Mm-hmm. Yes, we've got a coaching change that's occurred, but I think that might have been for the better. And you know what? I think the Hawks are going to shock a lot of people this year.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so, man, because obviously we want this team to do as well as they can. So I'm excited. Everybody's excited, guys. Thanks for tuning into this pod, and we will catch you guys on the next pod. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.